Let's get real.
Welcome to the Daniel Stih podcast. Today's episode is on what geoengineering actually is and why chemtrails are not a form of geoengineering. On a recent Tucker Carlson show, Tucker said he spent the last 6 months trying to find someone credible to explain what chemtrails are. Quote, a serious, sane person with an engineering background. Well, he didn't find me. I'm an aerospace engineer. I've been aware of chemtrails since 2000. I've personally met Clifford Cornucopia, the man who started the chemtrail conspiracy 20 years ago. Tucker says he doesn't remember when, as a kid, seeing chemtrails in the sky. It's because he just don't remember, and you didn't notice them. Like most people don't notice. Go back and look at pictures. The title of that episode was, The Government Has Finally Admitted That Chemtrails Are Real. It's called Geoengineering, and it's far worse than anything you imagined. The title of his show is misleading. Did you catch why? Misinformation. The government has not admitted that chemtrails are real. In fact, they don't say anything about chemtrails because it's conspiracy that's false. Rather, the government and industry in general, there's a lot of geoengineering work being done. And I will explain in this episode what geoengineering actually is and what chemtrails are to those who think they are a form of geoengineering. They're not. So on with the show. Geoengineering is actually an international large-scale. It needs to be large-scale if it's going to work. Right now, experimental, but at some point, the people that work on geoengineering would like it to be large-scale modification of the Earth's climate system as a last resort to slow global warming. It's not a replacement for reducing CO2 emissions. Rather, it's being considered as a potential emergency tool if global warming accelerates beyond expectations, if you believe in global warming. So geoengineering comes in two primary categories. In terms of the ones that are actually practical, have some promise at all of them are rather going to be difficult to implement if they are implemented. First is solar radiation management, which means reflecting sunlight back into space. And then the second one, which is more common sense, is let's remove the carbon dioxide. So an example of a solar radiation management idea would be, and this is one where the chemtrail conspiracy comes in, injecting aerosols into the atmosphere. The difference is the real geoengineering, what they're injecting into the atmosphere is sulfates, the same as what might occur in a natural volcanic eruption, a volcano. They noticed a cooling effect when there were volcanic eruptions, and they attribute to the sulfates in the atmosphere these particles. They've also thought of using calcium carbonate and titanium dioxide, but none of these are like the chemtrail chemicals and compounds that chemtrail conspiratory people say is aluminum and barium. And out of all the geoengineering ideas, this does have the most promise. Still has challenges in terms of how do you get any appreciable cooling effect. Because a volcano goes off, and then it's amazing how the atmosphere clears it. It also requires producing aerosols of specific size and uniformity, and then you need the deployment, aircraft, balloons, ships, and you need long-term commitment because Mother Nature is going to pull it out of the atmosphere sometime after you put it in there. And ceasing it abruptly could lead to even what they call termination shock, which is worse than what you started with. There's also legal and social issues. It could positively impact some locations, negatively impact others. There's no framework, no oversight on the research and implementation. It's basically not illegal to do this. You might start some conflicts if you do something that makes it good for your neighborhood and bad for somebody else's. The next real geoengineering technology is called marine cloud brightening. And this is basically spraying sea salt into the air to make the clouds more reflective. The idea came from when they noticed on satellite imagery trails of clouds that were brighter following ocean ships, cargo ships. And the theory is that very small droplets of seawater, when they get in the air, increase cloud reflectivity because the fine particles of sea salt enhance cloud condensation nuclei, making more cloud droplets. Clouds with smaller droplets are more reflective. The risks are unclear. Clouds are complicated and poorly understood. More cloud condensation nuclei increases the size of a cloud in the amount of reflection, but the precipitation efficiency of the cloud size is increased. In other words, we might have more clouds that last longer, but there's less rain. Another challenge is the number of droplets don't increase proportionally when more aerosols are present. In fact, it may even decrease. The effects of particles on clouds is not straightforward. Depending on if you deploy this in the South Pacific or South Atlantic, it could increase rainfall in Western or Central Africa, for example, while reducing it in Southern Africa. So there are other types of geoengineering being studied, not chemtrails. And these are cirrus cloud thinning, which involves seeding cirrus clouds to reduce their thickness and decrease cloud lifetime, because cirrus clouds reflect stuff back to the planet, as do chemtrails. As do the artificial cirrus clouds produced by aircraft, which produce what people think are chemtrails, but they're really artificial cirrus clouds, and they reflect. And the last one is painting the roofs on buildings white to reflect, reflectivity, reflect it back into space. Space-based mirrors, very theoretical large mirrors in space to reflect sunlight, and assessments have concluded that's just not going to be feasible at any cost. None of these reduce CO2. They cool the planet, and only temporarily, and they all have the potential to disrupt rainfall, monsoons, crops. They require constant maintenance. If they're suddenly stopped, it might cause more harm than good. Some of these solutions proposed contradict each other, like when taking two medicines. One impedes or negates the effect of the other. So if you have two different parties studying these two different technologies, which you do, and they both try to implement them, then they might contradict or cause more problems than we had to begin with. Carbon dioxide removal. Now, this is where you remove the carbon dioxide. An example is, and this is all geoengineering again, capture the CO2. I say leave it for the trees, because the next idea for carbon dioxide removal under geoengineering is massive tree reforestation, which kind of contradicts with massively cutting down the forest in Canada so we have timber and lumber to build houses in America. This conflicts with the solution to capture CO2. Also, there's biochar and ocean fertilization and enhanced mineral weathering. None of these address what some believe the cause of climate change, CO2. They capture it. They don't actually encourage people to reduce it. It's kind of a conflict of interest. As long as we can capture it, maybe there's no incentive to reduce it. Now, why is geoengineering even being considered? It's because of climate change and the idea that some people simply believe we're running out of time, and there's no way to reverse the effects of CO2 at this point. Now for chemtrails, and why some, such as Tucker Carlson and his guest, confuse geoengineering with chemtrails, confuse chemtrails as a form of geoengineering. The chemtrail theory claims governments are secretly spraying chemicals from airplanes, either for population control to make us sick or for other purposes. Some who believe in chemtrails also believe the chemtrails are a form of geoengineering. I myself have been confused going to these sites because someone sent me to one of them, and the first thing I saw on the chemtrail site was geoengineering. Which is it? Geoengineering? Or is it population control and make people sick? Is it to reverse climate change or control the population and make them sick? I suppose you could say both. The truth is the chemtrails are not a form of geoengineering or making people sick. So why the confusion? I've been around the block with this, and I've actually interviewed the man who started the conspiracy. And there was no data, and his science was rubbish. So I understand why the confusion. There are language overlaps. Proposals for geoengineering include terms such as stratospheric aerosol injection and atmospheric spraying. So, of course, when people see airplanes in the sky making contrails that look unusual on certain days of the week, they're going to think, oh, aerosol injection, atmospheric spraying, words used in the science of geoengineering. Those who believe in chemtrails, they believe these compounds emitted from the aircraft contain barium, aluminum, bacteria, and hazardous materials. Again, this is kind of contradictory to something that would actually help with climate change. It doesn't belong in the same category as geoengineering. Now, fueling the conspiracy, the confusion is the fact that weather modification programs do exist. That's not conspiracy. And these are cloud seeding. storm modification, fog clearing, hail suppression. Those things actually go on locally. Chemtrails, on the other hand, are ice crystals. The biggest part of the confusion with chemtrails that people argue about because they never get the straight story is the word condensation. People like to say it's not normal condensation. It's not condensation. It's sublimation. It's ice. People say that, okay, what comes off an airplane exhaust, it's like your breath on a cold day. It should go away after a while, the condensation. Not if it turns to ice, and sublimation's like not having a frost-free freezer, where now it's not just what you started with, it's all the rest of the water vapor in the air that's starting to attach to this ice crystal, which came because of the airplane, which is not from the engine exhaust always or by itself. There's other factors, and the big one overlooked is the compression at the wing surfaces, meaning if you compress something enough, it will turn to a liquid and then a solid. This was happening with the chemtrails. They're contrails that are not vapor. They're ice crystals. Confusion, someone sent me a link to a site on geoengineering, for which the header says, geoengineeringwatch.org. This is actually the guest that was on the Tucker Show. And on the homepage is videos of the planes making contrails that appear to be chemtrails. Overlaid on the video is the word geoengineering, but then the whole website's nothing about some conspiracy to make people sick. These chemtrails, airplane contrails that look abnormal, they're a natural phenomenon that occurs when vapor emissions or compression at the wing surfaces of a normal aircraft turn to ice crystals, forming ice clouds. I have 2 episodes that explain what chemtrails are and how they're formed, linked in the show notes. Now, Tucker's guest says, well, we've tested it. We find this stuff. At first, you're like, well, oh, wow, that's interesting. What they do is they don't get behind the aircraft or go up in the sky when there are chemtrails in the sky. They capture the rain when it's raining and go, oh, look, there's this barium in the rainwater. Or they take a sample of the snow. There's a huge time lapse between when the planes are flying over and it rains, because it's not raining when you see the chemtrails. You can't see the chemtrails if it's raining. So what is this, the next day, the next week? They don't tell us that in their data. Oh, I saw chemtrails on Monday. I saw them on Tuesday. Wednesday was clear. Thursday was clear. Friday it rained. That's when I took my rain sample and found the stuff in the rain sample. Therefore, the chemtrails are where that came from. Go back and watch these videos and these sites on chemtrails. You'll see that's literally what they do. When they should do, if they want me to have any credibility for what they're saying, take a data point every day of the week. You can't do that because it doesn't rain every day of the week. You're going to collect snow every day of the week. It's going to be fresh snow, old snow. I'm not going to say anything more about chemtrails because that's a distraction from what is real. And what is real is geoengineering. And it is cause for concern I'm going to get to. Real quick, I think geoengineering is also a waste of time and money. We have homeless, jobless, hungry people. And we say we have no money to fix these problems. Imagine we spend $1 billion developing and testing geoengineering ideas because people think we've got to, run out of time, global warming. $1 billion wasted, in my opinion. We could have said, here, take this, a check for $1 billion, and buy some food, build a couple thousand homes, create a job training program to solve the problem of tariffs that we're trying to solve with the tariffs and bring the work back to America. Some always say we don't have money. Oh, we do. Or we did until the climate hoax took it all away and we spent it all on geoengineering. And the waste won't stop there. As I mentioned, geoengineering, they have no idea what's actually going to happen until they do it large scale. They're going to tamper with the natural environment. No matter what you do, I can tell you as an engineer, you always learn something different, create a new problem you have to solve before you get it right. So we're going to also have to spend real time and money then fixing the geoengineering problems. Also an ethical nightmare. Who gets to decide? If the geoengineering could change the rainfall patterns, the temperature, and create monsoons or drought in certain locations while change the ocean chemistry, while making some climates better, some worse, who gets to decide? Who gets to control the thermostat and decide when the planet's cold enough or warm enough? What if India loses its monsoon rains, China brightens clouds over the Pacific, it shifts weather in Mexico, small island nations might want aggressive cooling, large nations might not. There's no global governance framework, no treaties, no enforcement mechanism for any of this. Geoengineering is a form of climate power, could turn into the new Cold War of climate control. My solution, it seems we have to be the adult and tell the children they can't play with the climate. Here's what a responsible use of climate engineering, geoengineering might look like. 1, there needs to be clear international rules, approvals, monitoring, and transparency. There should be public reporting, open sharing of the data, not like the reports we get about climate change, that it's getting hotter, just trust me because I'm a scientist. No, I want to see the raw data. I don't want my world's leading climate change scientist to tell me they analyze the data and this is it. I want to see the raw data. And those studying the geoengineering technologies should share all their data and experiments. But you're not going to see that sharing of data unless radical changes are made in how we do things as society. They're not going to want to share it because that gives a competitive advantage to a competitor, not just on the technology they're developing, your competitor who has a different technology. We have the same issue during the vaccine development during COVID, secrecy, competition. If this is truly a world crisis, as they tell us it is, we need to change how we share information, we study things. We need to work on it as a collective. And that requires sharing all the raw data, everything we know in an open source depository. Number 2, we need to slow ramp up and make sure it's reversible. Start with micro experiments. Stop if a negative side effect appears. Question is, 1, who's going to judge something's negative? Not the person developing it. There's conflict of interest. And will a company that spent millions or billions invested and they want their stock price to go up, so legally they have to consider their investors legally, will they have the moral thought to, oh, we need to stop this, pull the plug, just take our losses? Or will they more likely go, no, you know what, it's just a development process, it's kind of normal. So what if it's Mother Nature and the environment? And will they stop or continue in secrecy? Number 3, we need an exit strategy. Even if it is a viable solution, I don't want to live in an artificial environment. A clear plan should be in place before we start on when are we going to slow down, when are we going to stop, and exactly what temperature, what parameters. Before we start, let's put this on paper. This is when we're going to slow down. This is when we're going to stop. It's an exit strategy, or if it's a maintenance program, we need to agree on everything in terms of maintenance for the planet. Now, why you should be concerned? Not on chemtrails. That's fake. That's a misunderstanding, misinformation. You need to be concerned about geoengineering. Because if the climate modification programs are deployed, it could affect our food and our weather. And there's massive issues about control. Who decides, who benefits, who loses? Is it used as a weapon? Rush deployment could destabilize climate patterns naturally. Will we ever get them back? It's like spraying pesticides or genetically engineering crops where you actually lose the native seeds. Can we go backwards? Maybe, maybe not. And it distracts from cutting the emissions. The CO2 emissions is the real problem. Then we kind of need to address that. You need to be concerned, but don't panic. Don't panic. That does nobody any good. At this time, no country admits to large-scale geoengineering programs. These are experiments. Chemtrails is not one of them. Cloud seeding is real and done on local scales. That's not a type of global climate geoengineering. Good to be aware of these things, ask questions. Start by questioning the science and the data behind the myth of climate change. I covered that with a guest in another episode. There is no climate change problem that needs to be solved. And you can see this for yourself by using the Python script that I wrote, and I have it in the show notes on those other episodes, where you can download the temperature data in your own city and see for yourself, is the temperature going up or not? Spoiler alert, even if you do that, AI is going to tell you it doesn't matter if it's not getting hotter in your town, that you need to do all these special statistics to conclude it's overall still warming overall on the planet, even though you could take 10 cities across America and the temperature's not going up. Somehow AI will still want to convince you otherwise. That's fine, but show me your data. And I never get to see the AI data. AI doesn't have the data. Those scientists are holding on to the data in secret because their careers are vested in it. Links are in all the show notes. Thanks for listening. Till next time, I'm Daniel Stih.
Let's get real.